A wise guy once said, "A joyful heart brings good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones." So tonight we're going to talk about, drum roll,
Comedy.
comedy, laughter, humor, funny things, funny movies, the art of comedy, the method of comedy even. We've actually been reading some books and material about constructing and writing jokes and writing humor and things of that nature, and it's actually been a lot of fun.
It has. There are actually mechanics and rules that go into what makes something funny, which if you don't think about and you just enjoy comedy, it's interesting to kind of see behind the scenes. We took a video class in college years ago about movies and different shots and camera angles and kind of the methodology behind film.
And it really ruined movie watching for us forever.
It did, for a time for sure, because you're watching a movie like, is that one cut? Oh, look at how they did that. Oh, did you see that angle? Did you see that tactic that they used? Yeah, for a while. You couldn't stop thinking about the mechanics. So with comedy, it's similar.
You could see, is that an establishing shot? Is that a crane shot? Yeah, cinematography really changed after that. Like, our view of watching a movie has forever been altered. In fact, even watching movies now, we'll start just talking about the cinematography, the various camera angles and all of that. But anyway, the same thing can be applied to jokes and humor and writing. Like you said, it's method.
There's some behind the scenes things going on.
Beats and rhythms. And also, really, as we're reading in some of the books that we're reading, people can learn how to do it. It's not some special skill given to you by the gods or something, handed to you by God. We believe in one God, so yeah. But that's a saying, the gods, which we don't believe in the God. Whatever. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so one of the things. Okay, where do you want to start? Because we've kind of already chatted a little bit about what we were going to talk about, which kind of throws us off sometimes when we want to just discuss the details. Because I feel like sometimes have a particular stuff that you want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
You have method to your madness. I mean, method to your genius, and yeah. So, where do you want to start? Because I feel like there's 10 different starting places that we could go.
Let's just talk about laughter in general at first.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, do you like to laugh?
No. Yes.
Everyone likes to laugh.
I think
Why?
Okay, so I think it's a universal thing. We do all like to laugh. Laughter is medicine. It's medicine for the soul. It's good for the body to laugh. And we all want to partake in laughter. We either want to be the one to tell the joke or we want to receive the joke, whatever it is. We just don't ever want to be the joke.
True. Sometimes the absolute best laughter is when it's at a time or a place where it's so inappropriate to laugh.
Yes.
And like you can't just totally enjoy that laugh because you shouldn't be laughing, which makes you want to laugh more. That's kind of the best.
It is the best. Give me an example of that. Tell me about when that's happened for you.
Gosh, it's happened a lot. So to think of like an exact, I don't
like church, like when something's really super serious where you're not supposed to laugh.
Yeah, and something tickles you and you like, and then the more you're like, oh my gosh, I'm laughing, or like, at a funeral or somewhere very serious where you should not be laughing.
Oh,
it's not that you're laughing at that.
Of course not.
And I think also though, right, laughter's kind of a release. Yeah. So like if a situation is tense or serious or too heavy, I think there's a tendency to want something to laugh at to kind of lift that pressure. Yeah. Even if it's only temporarily.
Well, it's even in movies, there's the comic relief. There's like a stressful situation or whatever, and then there's the comic relief character or moment where it comes out in that time, and you're like, oh wow,
you need that.
Yeah,
you need kind of a.
It's kind of or if you've had like a really hard day and it's been so terrible, and your house is messy, and your kids need their butts wiped, and kitchen floor is no longer the color that it was from the day before. It's now pretty much brown. Am I describing our house? Am I describing us? It's that element of, wow, by the end of the day, if something can just make you cut loose, it's freeing.
Yeah.
It kind of just lets the air out.
Yeah, it can change the whole atmosphere too of a room. I don't mean that in a weird way, but like you're saying, sometimes like if things are crazy or chaotic, you can feel like just stressed out and want to be like in a funk about it. Or if you're like, you know what, I'm going to choose to see the humorous side of this. Mm-hmm. And you start laughing, or you decide to just be in a goofy mood instead of being overwhelmed by it, then people are quick and happy to follow. Yeah. Like sometimes that's just like the best thing. If everyone's kind of in a weird mood, and then you're like, you know what, I'm going to change it by like laughing or telling something funny. Yeah. It can really make you have a good time. Right. Instead of a poor time.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It can change, like you said, the atmosphere or the mood of the energy of a room. It's funny too when somebody who is just a funny person, not necessarily a comedian, but just a lighthearted person can enter a room and they can change the motion and energy and feel of the environment that you're in. I had people growing up.
Catchy.
Moods are catchy. They're contagious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've known people in life where they would enter the room and then the room changes. Just like their presence, can really dominate. And not even because they're narcissistic individuals or trying to get all attention or something. It just happens. It's just a sort of a magic kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and we want to be around people who are lighthearted or people who make us laugh. Mm-hmm. I think the cool thing is anybody can be funny. Anybody can make you laugh. I was thinking about how for years now I've collected quotes of our children because our kids make us laugh. Our kids say things that are, and usually when they're getting us to really laugh, they're not trying to be funny, which is us too. Yeah. I mean, sometimes when you try to be funny, it's not nearly as funny as just the things we say or do that end up being funny. Right. But like even small children can be funny. Anybody can be.
Even babies can be funny.
Oh, very.
And it's interesting how being funny is not relegated to speech or a certain thing. Sometimes it can be a sound or a movement or
some people really get a kick out of when others get hurt.
That's true. That's true. There is
I will not call out my family member who does laugh. She probably wouldn't care because she knows she does it. Yeah. Like somebody gets hurt, it tickles her. It makes her laugh really hard.
There's something about a man getting kicked in the area that also makes people really laugh when a guy goes down. Like it's just a funny, especially if it happens in a movie. Yeah. Where you just see that and the guy's just like, what happens. That's the most excruciating pain imaginable. Not as much as giving birth to a child. Come on, whatever. But yeah, like it's really bad. It's really bad. It's for a guy, there's nothing else more painful. Yeah. But to see that in comedic form and somebody, or even on accident, somebody's playing soccer and boom, between the legs gets it, like, wow. Lots of people laugh at that. And if and lots of times people laugh and they gotta, turn their faces and hide because they don't want people to see that they're laughing at that.
Right. So that's kind of slapstick.
That's slapstick. Yeah.
So there's like actually lots of different types of comedy. Do you have a favorite type of comedy?
I don't know if I have a favorite type. I love good monologue, or I love when somebody will get up and do like a stand-up bit and tell a story. One of the things that comedy is that really is in story form, it's very vivid with word pictures and associations with different types of comedic, situations, very situational. And it creates pictures in the mind. So people that can create a funny picture of something, an event or a person or whatever, and make comparisons or similes to that, I think that can really be genius. But I don't know. I mean, over the years, I've had various comics that can tell just elaborate setups, and then the punchlines are very good and they pay off well. But one of the interesting things about comedy is that there are so many taste buds for it. Just like we as people have taste buds for food, there is no actual one size fits all in comedy. You can see a beautiful person, male or female, let's just say, and you could be like, everybody knows that person's like a good-looking person, right?
Right.
Okay. But in comedy, one of the things that I have seen in just research lately is people don't universally like every single funny person that's out there. Even the biggest names you can possibly think of in comedy, you'll find negative reviews, people that go, oh, he doesn't make me laugh, or she's not funny at all. There is no true, I don't think there's any universal absolute language of, oh, this person is funny to all people. Yeah, I won't say his name because it's, you know, people probably like this comedian, but there's one clean comic that's huge and really funny, and I won't say his name, but he's not funny to me, like, at all. And I love comedians, and I think, and I love a diverse group of comedians, clean and people that are a little more blue material. But this guy, I am wondering, like, what do people see in this guy? But that being said, I recognize full well that there are so many different flavors of comedy out there, that there's obviously an enormous amount of people that think this particular comedian is the best thing since the yo-yo or whatever.
Well, I think that comes across it too, like when we...
I didn't want to say sliced bread because that's the obvious thing to say, by the way.
You're throwing us off there.
No, it's not throwing it off. It's like a comedic thing that I read about in a book. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. To do the unexpected.
Do the unexpected. Yeah.
And sometimes that gets a laugh.
Yes.
That's not what people expect.
Yeah, it wasn't what people would be expecting. Like, yo-yo, what are you talking about?
Yeah. We see that when you look up comedies on like IMDb, the ratings, it's hard to ever find a highly rated comedy. Like a 6 is really good for a comedy. And I think it's because of that, because so many people have different tastes. Like we end up looking at like the user reviews, which are so mixed, which is why they're usually rated like 5 or 6 or whatever out of 10. But like you'll see a 10 out of 10, someone's like, oh, this is just hilarious. I love this movie. I watch it over and over. And somebody else will say 1 out of 10. This movie isn't funny at all. Like comedy is way more subjective, even though there are rules about it and there's methodology. Like a drama, people tend to see more in common. Or an action adventure. Like comedy has the most variety of tastes and flavors that people can like or dislike. I happen to really like self-deprecating humor. That tickles me. Whether it's like from a stranger doing stand-up or in a movie, or even like when you're on a rant or somebody that I know is on a rant, like that tickles me.
So you really laugh at people when they're essentially making fun of themselves in a clever way.
Yeah.
Typically. Right.
And they're doing it in a comedic way, not like they're doing it in a serious, like...
Not like they're really playing the violin, saying, I'm about to jump across
I'm
going to jump the bridge and life's
funny.
over, and you're not like, just do it!
No, but when somebody, like, you know, you get on good rants, my dad gets on good rants and that, and it's very, very, very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also when you make fun of me, that does make me laugh.
Wow.
Okay, about something.
I was going to say, I don't think that's true at all. Now you're lying on the Love of Life podcast.
You know you have a way of making...
Liar.
You know you have a way
Your
of...
nose just went... Whoop.
At things that I do that are funny.
Yes.
But I don't even notice are funny until you start making fun of it.
So it's more observational humor, really. It's not making fun of you. It's just observing something about you and saying, like, this or that. And then it's making you laugh or giggle. Yeah. It also makes you laugh a lot when I stick out my stomach. as far as it will go.
That's true.
And then I start doing a ridiculous voice. So, yeah. But some people would probably listen to this and cringe and be like, wow, I'm never listening or watching this podcast again. These people are crazy. That's not my kind of humor. That's not my kind of thing. But that's the interesting thing about comedy. Everybody's got their own thing that makes them laugh or makes them say, oh yeah, I want to watch that kind of thing again or hear that kind of comedy bit again.
Okay, it's like one of your favorite comics is Dennis Miller.
Dennis Miller.
And he did Monday Night Football for years. Not that many years. Only like 2 years? Because people did not like him.
2 year stint. Oh, yeah. Dennis has always had a very solid following of some people that I'm sure did like him. But I was 11 years old at the time. And back then we didn't have the phones and the internet where you could look up, what does this word mean and this archaic reference mean and all that kind of stuff. And I just remember like my dad would watch it with me and be like, I don't understand what this guy's saying. I don't understand it. But what's odd though is
lots of people didn't.
Lots of people didn't. But now it's funny. Even my dad loves him and thinks he's hilarious. And I don't know what changed for him, but I know I just got older and I don't know.
You appreciate the beats that Dennis Miller has, even if you don't understand all of his references, because who does?
No one does. Actually, he doesn't understand all of his references. He'll do like 2 or 3 things that everybody gets, and then his 4th reference or even 5th reference, he'll do something that nobody gets, but the joke has such a perfect beat that there's this point in which the setup allows for the punchline to come, and that's when everybody should laugh. Just by the way that the joke is structured. I know that sounds like a bunch of hogwash and nonsense, but that's not. So yeah, there's a way you can measure things up and do intonations with your voice. Intonations or tonations? Intonations with your voice. Mm-hmm. And then allow for people to go, haha, they may not know exactly what you said, but the way that he just said it and set it up and constructed the joke will make people laugh.
Like again, they know it's funny?
Yes, and again, it's like magic. It is.
Like they know it's their cue to laugh because of how it's been said, or yeah.
Well, how it's been said and then how it's been structured, the word order, the words that are even being used, and sometimes you can say things that are just absolutely outlandish, not just him but other people, and just people will laugh at outlandish things. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That's an incredibly hilarious, funny thing to say, but it's ridiculously stupid.
Yeah.
What is this? What is this?
I'm just saying.
I don't understand.
Did I do it that much?
Yeah, you
wow.
did.
Okay.
I don't understand that, but whatever. What are some of yours? Do you have favorite comics? Oh, I know one of your favorite comics.
Yeah.
Kevin James.
I do like Kevin James. Yeah, and actually, some of his bits still make me laugh. Like there's Brian Regan too. He's really, really funny.
Yeah.
They both have a couple of stand-up routines that years later, I'm still, when I think of it, it makes me chuckle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those guys a lot. We've been watching more John Crist lately.
Crist is really
He's
funny.
got some really funny stuff.
Yeah.
He also kind of has like the background of similar to yours, that he was homeschooled and he grew up in a church environment. So there's like some things that now as an adult later, like he can point to that. Obviously some things are like serious and good, but there are aspects to certain things that are humorous that he points out that maybe not everyone would think are funny, but if you kind of know what he's talking about,
yeah,
then it's really funny.
And some comedians, like Chris, have just such a funny personality. You don't have to have the same background. You don't have to have the same thinking or whatever. You just can listen to a guy like him and be like, and just appreciate his personality that comes out with his comedy, because he's just genuinely a funny person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So we're reading some books by a old, longtime comedy writer named Gene Parrott, who we just found out about recently, and finding some really interesting stuff. What are a few takeaways from the books that we've read that you've gotten?
Yeah. I've only read like 3/4 of a really short book, but it's like the 10 Commandments of Comedy or something like that. So he's talking about like the 10 rules, if you will, of comedy. And it's interesting because he just talks about in general comedy, and if you just even want to improve to have humor added into conversations or kind of wherever you're at in life,
if you want to be a speaker, a better speaker even, it's not just sticking with comedy. One of the things comedy can help teach you is how to construct sentences and thinking and methodologies in the way that you present to people as well.
Yeah, so some of the rules, I haven't looked at it in a couple of days, but some of those have been really interesting. And they're things that inherently you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like I knew that without ever having anyone having identified that.
Well, one of the things he says is jokes are supposed to be very concise.
Yes. Concise. And that's kind of a hard one, even he says, because it's like, does that mean the shorter the joke, the better? Like, not necessarily, but as short as it can be to get your point across. So like if you have too many extra things, and he gives good examples. So like he'll tell a joke and then it's like, but if I had said it like this, and you're like, oh yeah, it's not as good. If there's too much information, it distracts from the punchline. But obviously you have to give enough for the setup and for the punch. And not everything is a setup punch. Some things are more like, here's the scenario, and then there's like lots of jokes that you can do on that. But that's one. Can I think of one of the other rules? People have to understand what you're talking about.
Yep.
So he starts one chapter with a joke in French and a joke in German.
Oh, yes.
To kind of make his point, where you're like, yeah, he's like, these are tremendous jokes, but if you don't speak French or German, then these mean nothing to you. And similar to if people can't understand you because you're not speaking clearly, or because you're using words and references that people don't understand, except for Dennis Miller, because that's kind of part of his gimmick. And there's always like, within the rules, there can be some outliners just based on your personality.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, people can't laugh if they don't know or understand what you're saying.
Right. Right.
Those are just two, but I think a lot of it is generally just interesting. How about you?
Yeah.
I feel like you've read more and...
Well, one of the things he talks about is creating vivid word pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Because we think in pictures. So creating just with words and a few sentences, you can do it also with, obviously expression and face, but really it's all about creation through the words that we use. So if we talk about a house, how can we make the house really come to life in a person's mind and tell a joke about it? Making purple house with the dinosaur in front of it, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm not making a joke. I'm just saying the idea of a joke is to create images where you're not giving too much information away. You're not giving every single detail. You're just giving such a picture that people can see it and follow along with a good setup and then a good joke.
Yeah, well, he makes the point that anything that
good punchline,
anything that you think of, like if you think of something right now, you automatically are going to think...
Mother-in-law's tongue.
You're going to have a picture in your mind of whatever you're thinking it.
I have to explain that now. I'm looking at a mother-in-law's tongue, not my real mother-in-law's tongue. That is a mother-in-law's tongue, which is a plant, which is an enormous plant that we have by the side door. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything you think of, you automatically have a picture in your head. So like when you can tell something and make a picture in people's heads, it gets a better laugh. It makes it funnier because people are imagining that, and that's what they're responding to.
Yeah. Okay, so just changing gears just a little bit. What's interesting too is I've been more or less studying comedy for years now through older archived comedy, especially like on YouTube. So stuff that was back in like the 60s, the 70s, back in the Johnny Carson days, or Don Rickles, older comedians, stuff like that, Bob Hope. So it's funny that like those guys could get away back then with a lot more. And I don't mean just like blue material. They could just back then in our less sensitive society, they could just get away with a whole lot. I mean, Don Rickles, most people probably don't know. I mean, unless you're older, you probably don't know who he was. He could make fun of anybody, any race, male, female, didn't matter, but everybody would laugh. And they knew that it was a shtick, and they knew that it was a joke, and they knew that it was funny. We've crossed over in the last however many years into like super serious, everybody's so sensitive kind of zone that we heard, I think, was it John Crist, comedian of today, say that making comedy today in some ways is easier because crossing the so-called line is not that, you do it so easily now.
The line's closer.
The line is far closer. You don't have to say things that are even exaggerated or are outlandish or whatever to be pretty funny in today's society, because people other than comedians, they're not really saying much anymore because they don't want to offend and they don't want lawsuits. They don't want to get fired from jobs or whatever. Sure. And the point, of course, of comedy is not to be berating people or belittling people. to the point where you're just like, oh, you're doing this because you hate humanity or something.
Sure.
It's bringing to light something that's funny about a certain group or funny about certain people. You know, I mean, as Christians, there's plenty of things like John Chris does and I do at home you can make fun of about, but not in a way that's like, oh, well, I'm making fun of it because I hate Christians. Like, no, I am one. You know, but like in anything, as even I can make fun of fathers because I know what it's like to be a dad, and I can really make fun of fathers because I know what it's like to. I can essentially self-deprecate, right? That's so it's
Yeah.
You're looking at me like you're totally lost.
Well, you just went one direction and then another. So like, of what to respond to in that, I don't know. There was.
Do you have any response to any of that? Do you have anything to say?
No, I think that's true. We're more serious about a lot of things. Like, there's a lot, like, there was a time not that long ago, even the last couple of years, it was like, wow, comedians can't say anything because everyone was getting canceled. It's like, people got so sensitive you couldn't say anything. So I think that's what you're saying. Like, it's easier to do comedy.
It's easier to make a joke because
people are so sensitive in our culture. But there's that type of comedy, but then there's also observational comedy. Jerry Seinfeld is excellent at observational comedy, and he's very smart. Yeah. And the things that he says are funny. Yeah. So yeah, it's a different flavor. But aside from comedians, even, I think I don't know if this is a point in the book or this is just something that I say, but know your audience.
It's something you say for sure. Yes. Because I'll say a joke around the house and you go, know your audience.
Yeah, there's certain things I'm not going to
laugh at. Know your audience,
at.
Jay. Exactly. I'm not going to laugh at that.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. Well, in 15 years of marriage, I've learned to know my audience pretty well.
Yeah. I was actually going to say, you tell excellent stories to our children.
Yes.
You know your audience there. Like, you know the things that will make them laugh. I think the more you know somebody, the more you're able to make them laugh because you know the things that they understand or that they think about. Like, you can cater to somebody's sense of humor if you know them and you know the types of things. I think even us, because we've known each other so long, like, sometimes I'll say something just because I know it will get you to laugh, or you'll say something just because you know it will tickle me. Like, the more you know somebody, the more you can say things that will hit for them, you know.
Okay, well, here's a sidebar question that like totally just came to my mind that I have to ask. Okay. And it's totally crazy, and I do not mean it sacrilegiously. Okay. Don't mean that sacrilegiously. But I do just wonder, the Trinity, we're Christians, the Trinity, the Godhead, like, is there within the Trinity, is there real humor? Like, is there laughter in the ways that we do? I don't mean like, making fun of one another or something ridiculous. Again, this is not meant to be This is not a sacrilegious question. This is an honest theological question. Like, do you think God makes himself laugh? I mean, like, when he made certain animals, he had to have laughed, right? Like, he was probably like, haha, look at that platypus over there. Like, look how funny that looks. I mean, it really looks ridiculous. Like, when he made it, was he just like, oh yeah, that was really cool? Or was he going to be like, wait till the humans get a kick out of this too?
Are you asking, does God have a sense of humor? Because I think he does.
Okay, yeah. But do you think he is more observational comedian, like the platypus kind of thing? Do you think he's self-deprecating ever? I'm not trying to be sacrilegious.
It's possible for God to be self-deprecating, but if you think about, like, even when we fellowship with friends or with family, like, part of that is laughter, right? Yes. When you get together with your favorite people, like, you laugh together. That is a part of community and communication and enjoying one another's company. Yeah. So in that sense,
I just wonder within the Godhead,
I would think there's got to be merriment and joy and laughter. I don't know, humor in some way. Right. I would think.
I mean, we're always just stumpified by the 3 persons, 1 God. We don't believe in 3 gods kind of thing, but yet there is 3 persons. So, like, what is the, conversation like? What's the relational like? Right. Or among the angels, do they ever? They probably never make fart jokes or anything. But do you think the angels or the seraphim or cherubim Is there ever laughter?
Do they have like stand-up hour, open mic night?
They probably don't. They might stand up on clouds and watch this lightning bolt.
I don't know. What things make them laugh? And is it all just like a laugh out of like overwhelming delight?
Right.
Because we laugh
Right.
not just at things that are funny, but we laugh sometimes when we're just so happy.
Yeah.
We laugh when things are shocking or surprising. You get good news that you weren't expecting. Sometimes the response is to laugh.
Yeah.
Like it's...
And perhaps there's righteous laughter, and I mean really righteous laughter in ways that we don't even know about yet, that we'll actually partake in someday when we're with the saints in glory and we're with the Lord. Perhaps there's other kinds of, I don't know, almost a deeper sense of humor. I don't know. Not that we're just going to be laughing and cajoling or just laughing and carrying on in heaven or something.
No, but it's fun to laugh.
It is fun to laugh, and it's a part of being human. So I have to wonder, is this just a 20th and 21st century fabrication of what we do with stand-up and comedy and things, or is there something innate in us, in human beings, that want to laugh because the angels in heaven are laughing, or God himself laughs? I mean, it does say that God laughs in the Psalms. Mm-hmm. Usually he who sits in the heavens laughs. It's usually laughing at the enemies.
True. Yeah.
So not in laughing like ha ha ha, that's so funny, more like ha ha ha, I'm the supreme judge of all mankind.
Noah's not laughing.
Noah's not laughing. Okay. Anyway, you didn't fully answer my question, but that's okay.
Well, I don't fully know the answer. I think that's part of the point, but I think it's interesting, and I think that there's obviously some degree of joy and
yes, but laughter and joy are
different, but
kind of different.
Yeah, but laughter is good medicine, and you quoted that from Solomon.
Hey, great way to get us all the way back to the beginning. So on that note,
do something that makes your family laugh, or the people around you. You should, just because it's fun.
That was great. All right.